the 10,000-hour rule, the real way to master a skill. Hello and welcome back to MT. We've all heard it. You've probably said it to a friend, or maybe a teacher told it to you. It's this magic number that gets thrown around all the time when we talk about getting really, really good at something. The 10,000-hour rule. The idea is simple. If you want to become a world-class expert in anything, whether it's playing the guitar, becoming a chess grandmaster, or a master chef, you need to put in 10,000 hours of practice. It's a nice, simple, clean number. It sounds hard, but it also sounds fair. It suggests that anyone, and I mean anyone, can achieve greatness if they just put in the time. It doesn't matter if you're a natural or not, you just have to grind it out. But is that really true? Is there a magic switch that flips after 999 hours, and suddenly, on the 10,000th hour, you become a master? Or is this whole idea just a big, fat myth that we've all been told? Today, we are going to dive deep into this famous rule. We're going to peel back the layers and find out the truth about what it really takes to master a skill. We'll look at where the rule came from, why it's not the whole story, and most importantly, what you can actually do to get better at the things you care about without necessarily counting every single minute. Before we get into it, I have a quick question for you. Think about one skill you've always wanted to learn, or one skill you are trying to get better at right now. It could be anything: learning a language, playing a sport, drawing, coding, anything at all. What is it? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to see what you guys are working on. All right, so let's talk about this 10,000-hour rule. Where did it even come from? It was made super famous by a writer named Malcolm Gladwell in his popular book. He talked about a study from the 1990s that looked at violin players in a music academy in Germany. The researchers divided the violinists into 3 groups. The first group was the stars, the students who were expected to become world-class solo performers. The second group was the good students, who were expected to have a career playing in top orchestras. And the third group was the students who were likely going to become music teachers. The researchers asked all of them a simple question. Since the first time you picked up a violin, how many hours have you practiced? The results were pretty interesting. The students in the third group, the future music teachers, had practiced about 4,000 hours in their lives. The students in the second group, the good ones, had practiced about 8,000 hours. And the top group, the superstars, you guessed it, they had all practiced around 10,000 hours by the time they were 20 years old. There were no exceptions. No one in the top group had practiced less than that, and no one who had practiced that much was stuck in the bottom group. So, the conclusion seemed simple and powerful. The thing that separated the good from the great was not some magical inborn talent, but the sheer amount of time they spent practicing. 10,000 hours. That was the magic number for mastery. This idea exploded in popularity, and it's easy to see why. It's incredibly hopeful. It tells us that our destiny is in our own hands. You might not be born with the perfect genes for basketball, but if you practice for 10,000 hours, you can become amazing. You might not have a natural ear for music, but 10,000 hours in front of a piano can make you a master. It took the mystery out of greatness and replaced it with a simple formula. Work equals success. It's a very democratic idea. We love it because it feels fair. The universe isn't just handing out talent to a lucky few, it's rewarding the people who work the hardest. But here's where the problems start. The 10,000-hour rule, as we usually hear it, is a huge oversimplification. It's like saying the secret to a great cake is just to bake it for 60 minutes. It leaves out all the most important parts. What about the ingredients? What about the temperature of the oven? What if you just put a bowl of flour in the oven for an hour? You wouldn't get a cake, you'd get hot flour. The time is important, but what you do with that time is way, way more important. And that is the biggest piece of the puzzle that the 10,000-hour rule completely ignores. It's not just about the quantity of practice, it's all about the quality. Think about it this way. Let's say you and your friend both want to learn to play the guitar. You both practice for 1 hour every single day. You spend your hour just messing around, playing the same 3 chords you already know over and over again. It's fun, it's comfortable, and you're technically practicing. Your friend, on the other hand, spends his hour a little differently. For the first 10 minutes, he works on a new, difficult chord he can't play yet. His fingers hurt, he keeps making mistakes, and it's frustrating. For the next 20 minutes, he tries to switch between that new chord and a chord he already knows, focusing on making the change smoother and faster. For the last 30 minutes, he records himself playing a short song and listens back to it, trying to spot all his little mistakes. After 1 year, you've both put in 365 hours of practice. According to the simple version of the rule, you should be at the same level. But who do you think is going to be the better guitar player? It's not even a competition. Your friend will be miles ahead of you. You both put in the time, but your friend was practicing in a way that actually made him better. This special kind of practice has a name. It's called deliberate practice. This is the real secret. This is what those top violinists were doing for 10,000 hours. They weren't just fiddling around. They were engaged in a very specific, very focused, and often very difficult type of practice. Deliberate practice is the engine that turns hours into skill. Without it, you can spend 20,000 hours on something and barely improve. So, what is it exactly? Let's break it down into a few simple parts, because understanding this is way more important than counting to 10,000. First, deliberate practice has a very specific goal. It's not about just getting better in general. It's about improving one tiny, specific aspect of your skill. A tennis player isn't just practicing tennis. During a session of deliberate practice, their goal might be, I want to improve the topspin on my backhand. That's it. For the whole session, every ball they hit, they are thinking about that one specific thing. A writer isn't just practicing writing. Their goal might be, I want to write a paragraph that creates a feeling of suspense using only short sentences. This level of focus on a tiny, specific goal is what allows you to make real progress. If your goal is just to play the piano, you'll probably just play the songs you already know because it's fun and easy. If your goal is to play the C major scale with my left hand at 120 beats per minute without any mistakes, now you have a real challenge. You have something concrete to work on. The second part of deliberate practice is intense focus. This means when you are practicing, you are practicing. You're not thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. You're not checking your phone every 5 minutes. You are 100% locked in on the task. Your mind is completely engaged in what you are doing. This kind of focus is hard work. It's mentally draining. That's why most top performers can only handle a few hours of true deliberate practice a day, maybe 4 or 5 hours at the absolute maximum. The rest of the time might be spent doing less intense activities related to their skill, but that core, focused practice is done in short bursts. If you're practicing your guitar while watching TV, you are not doing deliberate practice. You're just passing the time. You might be getting a little bit of muscle memory, but you are not building new skills in an efficient way. You have to be totally present, paying attention to every move you make. The third part, and this is a big one, is immediate feedback. You need to know right away if you are doing it right or wrong. For some skills, feedback is built in. If you're learning to juggle and you drop a ball, that's immediate feedback. You know you made a mistake. If you're a programmer and your code doesn't work, the computer tells you immediately. But for many other skills, it's not so obvious. This is where a coach or a teacher is so incredibly valuable. A good golf coach can look at your swing and say, "You're dropping your shoulder a little too early." That's feedback you probably couldn't get on your own. A great language teacher can hear you speak and say, "You're pronouncing that vowel sound slightly wrong. Try rounding your lips more like this." That's the kind of feedback that fixes bad habits before they become permanent. If you don't have a coach, you have to find ways to give yourself feedback. You can record yourself speaking a foreign language, and compare it to a native speaker. Film your golf swing or your tennis serve and watch it back in slow motion. Record yourself playing a piece of music and listen for the wrong notes or the parts that sound clumsy. You have to become your own detective, constantly looking for clues about what's working and what's not. Without feedback, you could be practicing the wrong thing for thousands of hours, essentially getting really good at making the same mistake. The fourth and final part of deliberate practice is that it always happens at the edge of your comfort zone. This is maybe the most important part of all. Deliberate practice is not supposed to be fun and easy. It's supposed to be hard. It's about constantly pushing yourself to do things that are just a little bit beyond what you can currently do. Think about lifting weights at the gym. If you want your muscles to get bigger and stronger, you can't just lift the same 5-pound dumbbell every day for the rest of your life. Your muscles will get used to it, and you'll stop making progress. To grow, you have to increase the weight. You have to challenge your muscles. It's the same thing with your brain and your skills. You have to constantly be stretching yourself. If you're a chess player, you can't just keep playing against people you know you can beat. You have to play against people who are slightly better than you, people who will push you and force you to think in new ways. If you're learning a language, you can't just keep reviewing the same 100 vocabulary words you already know. You have to force yourself to learn new words and try to have conversations that are a little bit too difficult for you. This process of stretching, failing, adjusting, and trying again is where learning happens. It's uncomfortable, it's frustrating, you will make a lot of mistakes. But it's the only way to get better. If your practice feels easy and comfortable, you are probably not in the learning zone. You are in the performance zone. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you're not building new skills. So when we put it all together, the 10,000-hour rule starts to look very different. It's not just 10,000 hours of mindless repetition. It's more like 10,000 hours of this highly structured, focused, and difficult, deliberate practice. And this leads to another big problem with the original rule. The number 10,000 is basically a myth. It was an average, from one study, of a very small group of elite musicians. For other skills, the number can be completely different. Some studies on chess players, for example, found that some people reached the level of master in as little as 3,000 hours. Others took over 20,000 hours. And some people practiced for tens of thousands of hours and never reached that level at all. This shows us that the time it takes to become an expert can be wildly different from person to person and from skill to skill. There is no single magic number. Some skills are more complex than others. Learning to play tic-tac-toe at a world-class level is obviously going to take a lot less time than learning to play chess at a world-class level. Learning to become a decent cook might take a few hundred hours of deliberate practice. Becoming a world-renowned chef with 3 Michelin stars might take tens of thousands. And this brings us to another huge factor that the simple 10,000-hour rule ignores: genetics and natural talent. Now, this is a tricky subject. The original rule was so popular because it seemed to say that talent doesn't matter. It was all about hard work. And while it's true that hard, smart work is absolutely essential, to say that talent doesn't exist is just not realistic. Some people are born with certain advantages. A person who is 7 feet tall has a natural advantage in basketball. No amount of practice is going to make a 5-foot-tall person able to dunk a basketball like a 7-footer. A person with perfect pitch has a natural head start in music. Some people have faster reflexes, which gives them an edge in sports like boxing or table tennis. These genetic factors are real, but we have to be careful how we think about them. Talent is not an all-or-nothing thing. It's not like you either have it or you don't. It's more like a head start in a race. Someone with a natural talent might learn the basics of a skill a little bit faster than someone else, but that's all it is, a head start. The person with less natural talent who engages in years of consistent, deliberate practice can absolutely surpass the talented person who gets lazy and relies only on their natural gifts. We've all seen stories of the natural athlete who was amazing in high school, but never made it to the pros because they stopped working hard. Hard, smart work can often beat lazy talent. So yes, your genes might make it a little easier or a little harder for you to learn a specific skill, but they do not determine your destiny. They don't set a hard limit on how good you can become. They just change the starting line a little bit. And for most skills that we want to learn in life, things like playing an instrument, learning a language, or becoming a good public speaker, the role of genetics is actually much smaller than we think. Consistent, high-quality practice is still the king. There are other factors too that have a huge impact on how quickly you learn. One of the biggest is the quality of your teachers and coaches. A great teacher can accelerate your learning like nothing else. They can give you that crucial feedback we talked about earlier. They can show you the correct techniques from day one so you don't waste years building bad habits that you later have to unlearn. They can create a perfect roadmap for you, telling you what specific thing you should be practicing each day. They know how to push you outside your comfort zone in just the right way, so you are challenged but not overwhelmed. Having a good mentor can easily cut the time it takes to master a skill in half. The people who seem to learn incredibly fast often have one thing in common: they found amazing teachers. Another thing that matters is the age you start. For some skills, like learning a language or playing a musical instrument, it is generally easier to reach a very high level if you start as a child. A child's brain is like a sponge. It's incredibly flexible and good at absorbing new patterns, sounds, and movements. But this doesn't mean that you can't learn new things as an adult. That's another myth. You can absolutely learn a new language, a new instrument, or a new sport at any age. It might take a bit more focused effort, and you might not become the #1 in the world, but you can still become incredibly good. The key is to use the advantages you have as an adult, like your ability to focus, to understand complex ideas, and to practice in a deliberate, structured way. And then there's a factor that might be the most important of all, something that fuels all those thousands of hours of practice: passion. You have to love it. Or at the very least, you have to find some enjoyment in the process of getting better. Think about it. Could you really spend 10,000 hours doing something you hate? Could you spend thousands of hours pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, struggling and failing for something you don't care about? Of course not. You'd quit after a week. The people who reach the top of their fields are almost always obsessed with what they do. They find joy in the struggle. They love the process of practice itself. For them, it's not just a chore they have to do to become great. It's something they are genuinely fascinated by. This inner drive, this passion, is the fuel that will keep you going through the frustrating plateaus and the long years of hard work. If you're trying to choose a skill to master, don't just pick something you think will make you rich or famous. Pick something you are genuinely curious about, something you find fun. That passion will be your greatest asset. So, let's put this all together and ask the big question again. How long does it actually take to get good at something? The real answer is, it depends. It's not 10,000 hours. The first thing you need to do is define what good means to you. We don't all need to be world-class experts in everything. The level of skill you need depends on your goals. Let's say you want to learn to play the guitar. If your goal is just to be able to play a few simple songs around a campfire to impress your friends, you absolutely do not need 10,000 hours. You probably don't even need 100 hours. With about 20 to 30 hours of focused, deliberate practice, learning the basic chords and strumming patterns, you could probably reach that goal. You'll be good enough for your purpose. If your goal is to be able to play in a local band, to be a competent amateur musician who can perform on a stage and sound pretty good, then you'll need to put in more time. Maybe a few hundred hours, or even a couple of thousand hours of deliberate practice over several years. And if your goal is to become the next Jimi Hendrix, a world-famous, innovative guitar god who changes the history of music, okay, now we are talking about the kind of time and dedication that might approach and even exceed 10,000 hours. But even then, it's not the hours themselves that matter, it's the incredible quality of the practice, the amazing coaching, the bit of natural talent, and the burning obsession that drives that practice. This idea that you can get good enough at many skills relatively quickly is really empowering. You don't need to dedicate your entire life to something to enjoy it and be competent at it. Want to learn to speak conversational Spanish for your vacation to Mexico? You don't need 10,000 hours. A few hundred hours of smart, focused study and practice will get you there. Want to learn to cook a dozen amazing meals to impress your family? You can do that in a month. Want to learn basic programming to build a simple website for your hobby? That's a very achievable goal that takes weeks or months, not a decade. The 10,000-hour rule can actually be discouraging because it makes the mountain seem so high that many of us never even take the first step. The truth is that the first few steps are the most rewarding and can get you surprisingly far. So, if you're sitting there now, thinking about that skill you wrote in the comments, what's a practical plan? Forget about the number 10,000. It's a distraction. Instead, let's build a smarter path. First, choose the right skill for you. Pick something you're genuinely interested in. Don't force yourself to learn coding because someone told you it's a good career if you find it incredibly boring. Your natural curiosity and passion will be the fuel that keeps you going when things get tough. Second, break it down. Don't try to learn basketball. That's too big. Break it down into the smallest possible pieces. Your first goal could be learn to dribble with my right hand without looking at the ball. Once you can do that, your next goal could be learn to dribble with my left hand. Then, learn to do a basic layup. By breaking a huge, intimidating skill into a series of small, manageable challenges, you make the process feel less overwhelming and you can see your progress much more clearly. Third, focus on deliberate practice. For whatever time you have, whether it's 30 minutes a day or 2 hours a day, make it count. Set one specific, tiny goal for your session. Get rid of all distractions. Turn off your phone, close your computer tabs, and give it your full, undivided attention. Constantly look for feedback. Record yourself, ask a more experienced friend for advice, or just pay very close attention to your results. And most importantly, push yourself. If it feels easy, you're not learning. Find that sweet spot where it's challenging, but not impossible. Embrace the struggle, because that's where the growth is happening. Fourth, be consistent. 30 minutes of focused practice every single day is a million times more effective than trying to cram 7 hours into one day on the weekend. Learning a skill is like building a muscle. It needs consistent work over time. It's better to build a small, daily habit that you can stick with than to have big, ambitious plans that you abandon after a week.